I'm going to talk to Fonda for a sec. And Fonda and I have been working on his dreams and goals. And I'm very excited to talk to him and share what has happened. Hey, there you are.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, good. I'm so glad to see you.
Oh yeah, glad to see you too.
So you have been a busy guy.
Yeah, a little bit, a
A
little bit.
little bit. Well, you have done more than one podcast.
Yeah. But well, those were recorded a while back, but I just reposted them and stuff like that. Yeah, but yeah, I've been doing my little podcasting and my motivational videos and YouTube and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
saw it. I was looking at you, showing also the workouts with the biceps and the
Oh,
abs
back. Yeah,
training.
yeah,
And
yeah, and also my little fitness thing too. So yeah.
yeah, so what do you have going on at the moment? I mean, I've seen so many pages or Instagram accounts. Which is the
Yeah,
one we need
yeah.
to go to see what you're up to? Are there several?
No, I'm going to see. I was trying to wiggle my way and trying to figure out a path for myself, but I think that mental health is always going to be my path. So the Instagram I have now at Fonda White Speaks is my main account, but I'll probably make a fitness one. Just because mental health and fitness go hand in hand as well. So, but I'll probably do that some other time. But right now, I'm just focusing on my YouTube channel and my Fonda White Speaks Instagram account.
So what's your YouTube channel about? Tell us.
YouTube channel is about mental health and stuff. Sorry about that. I keep getting
Yeah.
it's about mental health. Me just it's Fonda White Speaks, the voice. I call myself the voice of mental health. And it's just me spreading my message. I'm gonna start getting into vlogging as well, vlogging my day and stuff like that, and also just spread my message, spread my story, spread awareness on mental health and everything. So that's what it's about.
So, mental health, any specific things you're thinking about, or the whole broad spectrum?
That's a good question because it was funny. I just talked to my friend about that. Do I think I should narrow it down? But if I do narrow it down, it'll probably be into mental health and relationships because I believe that nobody's talking about having dealing with a partner with a mental health issue or mental health problem, and then on the other side, the person that deals with the mental health, how to have a healthy relationship in a with a mental health condition. So I think that if I did narrow it down, it would be specifically talking about mental health and relationships. And but right now since I'm just kind of getting it going, I'm kind of broad right now, but I will probably narrow it down because don't like our good friend Evan Carmichael says our purpose comes from our pain, and I feel like my pain has always been in relationships, you know, um, intimate relationships or just friendships or family ships, or anything like that, So that's always been a big, huge thing, and I feel like it's my purpose to help people like that. So and really spread the knowledge about that.
So, if I give you two observations from what I've seen, then I would say, on one hand, it's difficult to be in a relationship if your partner doesn't know what to take into consideration, because some things are just different in your mind as opposed to the average person, whatever average may be. But then on the
Yeah,
other hand, um, most people who have some sort of mental health issue have gone into some sort of counseling, therapy, whatever. In either case, they learned to think about themselves, who they are, how to deal with certain things, which makes them actually um, far more capable of being an excellent partner in a relationship compared to
Hmm.
other ones who didn't. What would you say about that?
I would say on that end, I think that because what I've learned and what I've experienced in having a illness, my mental illness, schizoaffective disorder, I think that once your partner or yourself educate yourself on the diagnosis, I think it'll be make everything a lot smoother. You know, because yes, you can go to counseling, yes, you can do all those things, but at the same time, you have to you have to kind of counsel yourself. You have to know that, you have to know yourself first, and I always tell people that I talk to, educating yourself on your mental illness is very important, and for your partner and yourself to make the relationship, a better quality thing.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess it's the self-reflection that people have learned when they go into whether it's group therapy or counseling or whatever. It's the self-reflection what really works. And
Yeah,
I
for
guess
sure.
that probably makes you a lot stronger uh, than a lot of other people.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Yeah.
Of course, we've
Yeah.
seen that you work out physically as well, so we know that you've got these big arms.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, just it's very important because I've been in so many relationships where the woman was saying like, oh, I can't be with you because of your mental illness, and be or you have too many this, you have too many that, and so it was a painful thing for me, but I think that learning more about myself and learning more about my symptoms or my triggers that would cause the relationship not to work or the relationship to crumble, you can work on those type of things and become better for yourself and then better for the relationship. So I've learned so much. I thank God that I did go through what I went through because I learned so much from it, and now I want to spread that knowledge and stuff like that to other people that are going through mental health things like that. So
I applaud you for doing so, really, because it's so good to have other people know that they are not the only ones out there, who
you're
are
not
dealing
alone.
with it. And you can actually, contribute by helping them and showing them, see, here I am, and I'm even on social media, I'm out there. And yes,
Mhm.
sometimes I doubt myself, but I get back in the game as well.
Yes.
And that's really a good thing. And what I remember from the last time we spoke, you said you have your surroundings to help you.
Yeah. Very, very do I do the support that I have is tremendously great, and I'm so grateful for it. My family and friends, and I think that's another big key is to have that support group around you, and even with Evan Carmichael, with y'all and everybody else that I talk to, it's like having that great support system around you is very, very important. So yeah.
Yeah, community accounts for everything. So would you say that with every relationship, um, you are more capable of expressing what it is, um, what they need to take into consideration, or maybe what it is you need in order to make a relationship work?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that yes, your needs and your partner's needs both need to be met, but there has to be an understanding around that. There has to be a foundation built on that. And the foundation is, understand your partner's illness, and your partner also educating themselves on their own illness. So if you understand that foundational fact, then you can definitely build something that's so healthy and so incredible and worth having, because we're all worthy of love. We're all worthy of love. No matter if you think you're not, you are. So
Yeah, of
uh,
course, we all
just building
are.
that foundation. Yeah.
I'm saying bonsoir to Alain. He's watching as well. So,
Oh,
yeah, not sure if he wants to join, but yeah, and that's, it's so important that, communication is the most difficult thing there is. I mean, even for
hmm
people who are not diagnosed with something, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe, no one is perfect. And
No, yeah.
it's like so many people actually say we don't get taught in school how to communicate with one another. Basically, what we
Right.
get trained to do is sit still. You're not meant to sit still. Keep quiet,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which
for
makes us
sure.
really not talk and express
Mm-hmm.
anything anymore. Alain, if you
Yeah.
want to come on, just send a request. Um, and then of course, and Alain should know he's a teacher, so that's actually probably a big reason why communications are not working nowadays because we haven't
Mm-hmm.
learned to express ourselves unless maybe we go and work somewhere and we have personal development courses because we run
Mm-hmm.
into something. So
Right.
basically, um, I got my first. Well, I was in an IT company and we had to go elsewhere, so that's why we went on
Mm-hmm.
personal development all the time. And then when I became a trainer, it evolved high speed, and then I got my first burnout. So you know what
Yeah.
happened basically. So I
You're
think
right.
Alain wants to join. Are you okay with that, Fonda? If Alain
Oh yeah.
joins?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it would be interesting to hear what he has to say about
Mm-hmm.
communication. Hi, Alain, bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Hello, Lady Lexi. Hello, Fonda.
How you doing?
Very nice. How do you like us to call you? Is it Fonda? Fonda White? How you like us
Oh,
to call you?
you just say Fonda, Fonda White, whatever you want to do.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah.
do you know a little bit about Fonda's background, Alain?
Hmm.
Uh,
Oh,
no, I think I've seen him once or twice with Zenderman, and that's about it. So,
Okay.
so when I saw that you're both on, I said, okay, let's see what I can learn from you guys tonight.
Well, hopefully we can learn something from you
yeah,
too. Fonda, do you want to do the honors or do you want me to
exactly.
explain? Do you want
Oh
me
no, no, you can go
to?
ahead.
Okay. So Fonda and I got to discuss. Um, he was having some doubts about which direction to go into, which is partially because of, well, in his character, in his nature, because of being bipolar. There's doubt always there.
And
Correct,
schizophrenia.
right?
Yes. Yeah, and
And
schizophrenia as well. Schizoaffective disorder.
yes, and because of that, he knows the importance of expressing himself, which he basically does. You can also see that he's taking really good care of himself. He's a big guy who likes to work out, and he's very, he's this really creative mind. And that's cool. So if you go and look on Instagram, you can basically see all those different accounts. So when we got to talk, he said, I'm not sure what I want to do. And he has been the one who actually had a huge following. I mean, how many YouTube watchers did you have at some point? Over 1,000? Oh, you keep going in and out.
I think it might be looking for a place where the internet is better.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
So,
several people joined in actually, so maybe that's why.
yeah. So the cool thing is that we were just talking about mental health issues and relationships. And I just mentioned that's the main problem. We do not learn how to communicate when we're at school. We are told that we need to sit down. We are not equipped to sit down.
Yeah.
We learn to zip it, not say anything. No, we need to raise our finger. And then we become adults, and then we have a problem. I
Yeah.
think he's back here again. And that's why I loved seeing you come on because I know you're a teacher.
Oh, well, with all the things that comes through, but it isn't, and you are right,
Sorry.
Lady Lexi. Welcome back. You are right that often in the school system or the school setting, we don't take time to just discuss about how we are, how we're doing, and giving the vocabulary. So sometimes just to talk about how we are, how we feel. so that at least we can help each other. That's something that I've been working hard, especially in the virtual world right now. It's so much harder.
Yes, I've noticed that, and that's actually why I stopped doing it for a while, that when people ask me how I'm doing, they're not interested in how I'm doing. It's like this civil thing. Oh, how are you doing? Yeah, good. Well, I'm not that way. If you ask me if I'm doing good, either you want to hear the answer or you're not interested, but we're not going to do the civil thing, which means nothing. Um, so what do you do, Fonda, when people ask? Oh, I'm sorry. When people are asking you how you are doing, what's your first instinctive reaction? Would you tell them, or would you?
That's a good question. Usually at work, I just say things are great. And if I know them or I want to tease, I say, well, I'm doing great because I'm paid to say I'm great today. So everybody laughs about it and it takes the tension out and we go from there. But I tend at work not to mention that too much. And I don't know if it's because I'm a man. Sometimes we tend to keep how we feel inside a bit more. Uh, but something I've been trying to work with, and I've been working with my students, is I have what I call a mood board. So usually it's so I have different kinds, and it's not mine. It's a colleague of mine who was doing little GIF pictures related to either movies or icons, emojis. So you just show to the students, I don't know, about I don't know, half a dozen of those emojis and just say, okay, so how are you feeling today? So they don't have to say how they are, but they can see, okay, well, and they look at the pictures, oh, I feel like that today. And sometimes, because I work in a virtual school, I say, okay, if you want and you feel comfortable, put the number of the picture that you feel so we get a mood of the classroom. And it's interesting because I've been doing it, so we're in December. So I've done it maybe more than 60 times so far. And every so often people say how they feel from the picture. And then people chat in the chat the chat room saying, oh, we're here for you, and people help each other to see how they are.
I
And
love it.
and I think that has helped quite a bit because sometimes just you trying to figure out what the words you feel is tricky, and then trying to explain the feeling so the other person understands. And the words are your interpretation of your feelings, and the other person is trying to interpret your interpretation of your feelings based on their understanding of their own feelings. Half the time it's tricky. So, and I find that usually like a series of pictures help a little bit uh, because of that.
Yeah,
It helps me too.
one
Go
of my
ahead.
clients is in the autistic spectrum, and he talks about having a what he calls an outie day, so an autism day. So when he tells me I have an outie day, then I know that that there has been too much going on in his mind. He's
Okay.
overstimulated, and we better not talk because he's just too tired. He has no energy left. So, Fonda, you've been hearing what Alain just said about the
Yeah.
emojis and all that stuff. What's your take on it?
Oh yeah, no, I think that's a great way to understand people's emotions and how they're feeling. I think for me, when somebody does ask that question, "How are you doing?" I do tell them, but at the same time, I flip it around and ask them how they're doing. I generally want to know how they're doing and how they're caring because I always say I think that that question is so important, especially in the mental health community. How are you doing? You know, it's just a simple "How are you?" You know, but we're all built to serve, so I just kind of flip it on that end and be like, you know, how are you doing? You know, like, and then to get the kind of conversation rolling because some people are do walk past, you know, hey, how you doing? I'm going, and then you know they kind of keep going on their ways, but once you have a genuine sense of you wanting to really know how that person is feeling, yeah, I think they're special, you know. So that's kind of how I deal with it when people ask me that question.
I think that's terrific what you're doing, and I also have noticed that when usually, I was used to be an introvert, and at times when I'm really tired, don't talk to me, just let me be, especially when I wake up. I'm like grumpy me. And then at some point, then it's, okay, I'm here. But
Right.
most people I know, at least, the moment they wake up, it's like this switch goes on. And it's like, like, whoa, you're going way
Yeah.
too quick, and
Man.
that's loud for me.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, I guess I've got a manual like that. But um, what I did notice is during because I've traveled a lot and I always need medical assistance. Um, so a lot of different people are helping me, usually for about 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, and then actually asking them about how their day is and what they've been doing. It totally changes their mind and it makes them open up.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Hmm.
So, so going back to what Alain just said, you said, Fonda, um, you want to do something when it comes to relationships.
Hmm.
So just the idea of whether it's the emojis or doing something with having them really express how they're doing or what they do or do not understand. What would be your thoughts on that?
I think
For
that
relationships,
oh,
oh,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Fonda. No,
No, no,
it's
you
all
go.
yours.
Oh. No, I think on the when it comes to mental health and relationships, um, it would be cool to do like some sort of like coaching or whatnot. But I think for me, just wanting to be like, or me just being a communicator and a speaker and speaking on it, I think that I would just start off with like yourself, with self love comes first, and then because you got to fill up your cup before you can, pour it on to somebody else's cup, So I think that I would definitely want to guide or put the people in a position to love themselves first because that's what's important in relationships is self love. You fill your cup up, let it run over through other people. So that's kind of how I would start it off. Start it off for sure.
Yeah, that sounds
And,
good.
and I agree with Fonda White here. The idea is if you open up the communication, then it's so much easier. People know where you are standing. Um, in my past relationship, we talked about the fact that I'm a big introvert and I can be with people and entertain and so on. But usually, like that person knew that usually 3 hours. I can do it for 3 hours. We can be in a group. I can entertain. Um, but if we're welcoming people at home, I'm going to be the cooking in the kitchen, entertain them. Then I'll be with the group, and then I'm going to do the dishes after. So I knew, they knew, and it was great. Or if we were going out, we'd go out, and they would know it's 3 hours, and I'm going to give everything I've got. But the person knew that at some point, I'm there for them, but they need to be there and acknowledge that I have some limits as well. And you set boundaries, and then people say, okay, this is where you are. You're all there with me for that time, and then you need your time. And then communication, I think, is such a big important block of that.
Yeah, and communication, understanding. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Understanding what your partner's needs are, or what your needs are. In the relationship. Because in any kind of relationship, whether it be friendship or intimate relationship, we have to understand each other, and like you said, communication is key, so understanding that, hey, this is how I am, and this is how I was born or raised, or this is how I was created myself. You have to kind of like put the puzzles to the pieces, or pieces to the puzzle, like, okay, this is how this person is, okay, then this is how I'm gonna react and act accordingly, to one each other's needs, so yeah, I agree with that.
And there's more and more discussion about to include everybody, the inclusivity and equity and so on. So we tend to respect each other's need a bit more than we used to maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And I've
Right.
noticed big differences there.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
my one word, hashtag inclusion. I know everything about being the odd one out and about not wanting to speak up or not daring to speak up, or basically, let's scratch that. Having learned to keep my mouth shut, because that's what
Mm.
basically happened. I got bullied a lot back in the days because in the Netherlands it wasn't normal to have dark eyes and dark hair, let
Mm.
alone someone with skin color like you. I didn't meet anyone until, well, that's not true. The first one I met when I was 7, and the second one when I was 15. So,
Mm. Wow.
but all everyone was blue-eyed with blonde hair, and of course now it's multicultural, so it's a totally different thing. But people were looking at me like, "Whoa, who is she?" And you could actually see it when I was looking at little children. I would go down to their height. I still do now to this day, and then they see those dark eyes, and when they're not used to it, they're like, a little bit fearful, just because they don't know it. That's it. So, but as a result, my mom, and that's because the way she was raised, actually said, just keep quiet, don't say anything. And nowadays, I don't think that's the way to do it. I think children should be taught that it's okay to say what's on their mind instead of keeping silent.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes you also have to choose the positive points and negative points, because sometimes with my kids I say, you can say what you believe in and it's important, but at some point you have to say, is it worth your time and energy, or do you want to sit back and just let them be with their beliefs, but not be affected by other people's beliefs? And that's okay, because we're trying to be inclusive, and therefore your people's perspective are important, yours are important, and Fonda's are important too. And some point we have to take some and leave some, and it's a skill, I think, because sometimes some people just take everything in. Other people have huge walls and they just don't pay attention to anybody. So it's such a social, socially, and you were talking about a social aspect of getting to know each other. It's not necessarily easy, and especially for me. So
Yeah, because how old are the kids you are teaching?
13 to 17. So they're
17.
teenagers.
Oh, that's such an impressionable age. So,
Yeah.
Fanda, what would you say to Alain if he could, with a magic wand, change the school system? What would you ask him to change
Change the
to
school
Um,
teach his students?
in what
this
setting?
is
When it comes to communication and having a better understanding of people who do not fit the regular norm, whatever that may be.
mhm.
Oh,
I,
yeah. No, go ahead. You go ahead. You go ahead.
okay. I would say the big thing is to be open-minded. Just if you can make new friends, and discuss different perspective and ideas. I think that's something to keep in mind. And with the video, for example, Instagram, we're from different parts of the world, and I think the social media is something to open up with some boundaries to make sure that they're safe with who they talk to and so on. But I think being able to talk to people with different background, different perspective, just so that they can understand that their point of view, or their family's point of view, is not the center of the universe, but there's so much more uh, to learn. I think that will be, and in the classroom, we try the best we can, but as you mentioned, sometimes there's limited time, and students have their ideas and so on. Teachers have their ideas and so on. So it's not always easy, but it's a process, and it's getting better, I'd have to say.
Yeah, because I know there in the US there is of course homeschooling. In the Netherlands there's not. I don't know how it is in Canada, um, but I've noticed that we call that people have like a backpack. So that's the equivalent of there's money that you can pay to the school so they can have some extra lessons for you. So apparently when people, especially people with ADHD, from that I know that you know what it means. I know what it means. Don't know Alain, if you have experienced it or just heard about it. But what they basically do nowadays is they put this big carton board and they put it around the table so they don't hear and see anything. And I believe they have headphones too. I'm going to Fonda for a sec. How was it for you when you were growing up?
As far as like the school system,
Yeah, did you feel like you could get along, or did they
uh,
understand you?
yeah, I was, and I'm still to this day, still the same this day. Is that I'm a people person. I've always been a people person, and I always had like a lot of friends and things like that. But I have had friends that have like been like my sister, for instance. I love my sister, but she's more introverted. I'm more extrovert. She's like, I don't want to talk to nobody. If I don't know them, I'm not talking to them, But I think that regarding going back to the thing in the school system, I think that I don't know if they do have it now, but I think that different type of classes, and it should start at a younger age. I think different type of classes, like maybe a meditation class or a yoga class or a mental health class or a communication class, a real communication class, can help the younger generation enhance for the future generation. Because when I was in school, it was just, English, math, reading, history, things like that. You're like, and you said it, sit down, be quiet, pay attention. This like, but why don't we get, some classes where we can talk about different topics that the kids or the teenagers want to talk about, because once they get older, and, we all learned this when we got older, it's like, we didn't, we're paying somebody something for a service or something. We're not doing X times this, it's just this dollar plus this, So, but communicating in the world and understanding one another's feelings or intentions or things like that can really enhance the world, So I think we need a different type of school systems that we can do different type of courses and classes than just reading, writing, arithmetic and stuff like that we don't usually use a lot, So just things like that, So that's kind of what my take on it is.
Yeah. So Alain, um, are you the exception at school?
I don't think so, but it's also the personality of the teacher. Because here, what mentioned some perspective that he's gone through or he may still see. And I see some of that as well. The thing is, I like when I teach French, for example, I want to know their perspective. For me, I like to learn the perspective of the teenagers on a topic. So it's how you bring it forward. Am I the exception? I don't think so. Uh, do I still have things to learn? Indeed. For example, I try to do attendance questions so that we read something, watch a video, and then they have to answer a question based on that, regardless if it's science or other classes. And the reason why I do that is first, they get some vocabulary just in case they don't know about it. But then to give them a voice is important. And at first I was saying, oh, this is taking time. It's wasting time in my precious class time. But I realized that the topics could be included with what I have to show. If it's a language or if it's a scientific situation or I want to talk about geography or math, you can always find a way to get students to read about the topic and then talk about the topic and they learn just by discussing it. And that has been my growth this year actually. Just realizing that you don't always have to follow the big structure, but indirectly you give a voice to the students, then the students realize they think either differently or they think the same ways, but they never had a chance to talk about it. And I think it's great that way.
Yeah,
So,
that's so
but I'm
cool.
not perfect. I still have to learn things every day. So
Okay, I think someone else wants to come on as well. Do any one of you know Sun Young Jill?
Um,
Alain, do you?
so I know Sajan. Sajan Jill, yes, I know. I don't know if he was to join in or just want to listen.
Okay,
It's up to you.
because he did request to join. Well, if he wants to actually get in, then maybe you can leave a comment so we know for sure. For sure. But going to Fonda for a sec, you are of course talking about relationships when they're a little bit older, because we're talking about girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, all that stuff. So, what would be your first thing you would like to say, or your first
they went out a little
three
bit.
ideas, or
Hmm. Can y'all hear me well?
yeah, I can hear you. You
Yeah,
were
I can
frozen
hear
for
you.
a
Oh,
sec.
okay. Yeah, I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, I said, well, we talked about what can be changed in school system. But of course, you want to talk about relationships where people involved have mental health issues, or one partner has and the other hasn't, or maybe both of them have, which makes it kind of interesting and also challenging, I might say. I actually had a client who had a boyfriend. They both met in group counseling. At first, I was like, I'm not sure if it's going to work. But what I actually saw is they put this board on there and they wrote down like some basic rules. Like, okay, this is what we need to do, this is what we don't need to do, and please take care of this and that and the other. So actually, that worked quite well. So since you are going to work with more with people who are a bit older, what would you say to them? What would be your first thing you would like to share with them?
Well, like I said before, the first thing is understanding yourself, and I think two is understanding your partner, but on a sense of a little level of their personality type. You know, their own personality type, not like MBTI personality type, but I mean that can help too. But what I mean is like the person, like, is the person introverted for instance? Do they like to go out? Do they get drained by being around other people and things like that? And then, you know, like he was saying earlier, you know, if you have a party or something like that, like, don't force your partner to do things that they're not comfortable doing in that sense, you know. And you know, I'm trying to think of another example. Just different things that can work with the relationship, you know. Because and it doesn't really have to be about love, relationship, or intimate relationships. This is relationships, period. You know, because everybody deals with some type of emotional pain, mental health issue, anxiety, depression. Everybody deals with it. You know, so we have to understand the person that we're dealing with, how to cope and work together in that sense, you know. So that's kind of how I would go by doing it. I don't that's a good question, because I need to come up with something that, like a 5-step plan or something like that, that can help people, you know, because I've experienced it so much, you know. And I just want to help other people deal with that, you know. Like I said earlier, like, there is a broad spectrum that I speak about mental health. I kind of speak about everything, but just pinpointing mental health and relationships is just something I struggle with a lot, you know. So something I really want to dive into and help people with. But that's a good question. I need to come up with some more stuff though.
Well, I already heard you say, know yourself, know thyself.
Yeah.
And what I really liked is the basic things you actually touched upon, which no one normally talks about. As in, are you an introvert? Would you speak up, or would you keep to yourself? Are you a daydreamer? So, I mean, when we get older, we usually can sort of read people's faces.
Mhm.
Not everyone can. It
Right.
depends on what you've been through. And of course, there's difference between women, so, women and men in their brain. It's wired differently. So now I'm going to Alain for a sec.
But
So
I would like
Alain,
to add, could I add something that Fonda just mentioned?
yes, please.
I do like when he says that getting to know yourself is probably one of the biggest things, because sometimes, and I would say that sometimes you need to, and not to be, try to ask for help, because once you get to know yourself a bit more and get the help, then you get the wording. You better understand your feelings. You better understand your
Triggers.
intricacies.
Mhm.
Hmm?
No, I'll say your
What did you say?
triggers as well.
The triggers as well, so that when you are with somebody, with friends or with a partner, then you can share the information, saying, okay, these are things that happen sometimes. This is how I feel. This is how it's projected, and this is how you could possibly interpret what's happening. So you have coping mechanisms sometimes for situations, and you can share them with people you're spending time with. And at the same time, both together, they can learn from each other, and then at that point becomes a partnership. And I think that's something that to consider as well.
That's nice. I was thinking, um, knowing yourself is very important, but sometimes we need the other one to observe us and give us the feedback. So, for instance, with the long-term partner I had, when we first met, at some point, he would point out to me that I could be, I'm not saying I'm really explosive. On the other hand, I am, because that's what comes with the territory of being hyper and full of adrenaline. But since I hadn't really learned to really express myself well, it was like I literally would go, and I would stamp my feet on the ground and not throw things as in breaking things, but just to get rid of the, to make a point. And it wasn't until later, when I spent a lot of time with my mom, that I realized she was no stranger to it. And I was like, oh, that's where I learned that behavior. But we do sometimes need people to tell us about it, and then we can actually say, oh, hang on. Yeah, that's true. For instance, when I started working and I started traveling by train, someone I met every day actually said, do you know that you actually tell negative stories? And I was like, oh, and that made sense because either nothing was said at our house or a lot was actually like complaining about stuff. Of course, later that changed. But yeah, then we actually go back to how can we actually teach other people to express more about it? Because Fonda, are you also going to do help in relationships, say between parents and kids?
That's a good idea. I never thought about it, but that's a good idea though. But I think that's a good idea because in mental health, especially mental health, because my mom, um, when I first came home in 2014 from having my mental breakdown, I um I actually me and my mom did not have the relationship we have today if it wasn't for my mental health breakdown. And I think my mom she had to educate herself on my illness, my schizoaffective disorder. So we went to classes and we went to meetings and things like that. So that's a good idea to kind of teach the parent child relationship issue in mental health. That's a good idea. I think, yeah, I would do that too.
Okay. So Alain, going back to you, um, do you see or observe children who have, um, I don't know if I would say special needs or more special needs than other children, and how would you deal with it?
It's a good question. Now, the school system is there to help students as much as we can. So that means that there's a whole process. So if sometimes we feel that the students need extra help or something that sometimes the students needs help, we have in our school social workers, and sometimes we have people that can help students. I work in a high school, so by the time they get to grade 9 or grade 10, they've gone through the elementary school system. And a lot of them have been identified and they have like personalized educational plans to help them. So either they need more time to work on evaluations, or maybe they need support, maybe they cannot, sometimes they cannot write the information, but they could tell you. So if you are aware of that there are different needs, then the system is there to help them. So there's a whole department for, it's called special education. And it's just there for that because we want to be inclusive for everybody, and we take them where they're at. So is it simple? It's far from being simple, but if you're aware, you're learning every year. There's students with different needs, and then you're learning from them, and then they're learning from you. And and as I say, communication is the key. Communication with the students if they can, with parents, and then with social workers. And there's some dedicated teachers for special educations as well. And there's also educational assistants that are there with teachers sometimes. So because some students cannot be by themselves, so there's sometimes an educational assistant with one or two students all day. just to make sure that they have someone there to feel safe and so on, so that the teacher can take care of the class and then they can still feel included in the group. So
But
mental health is
that
part
sounds
of the
great.
school system. Yeah, it's and it's and I have a lot of respect for them because different children have different needs, different ideas, different perspective, and daily when they come to school, depending on what's happening at home, sometimes the school system is their safe place. So we need to work with them where they're at every day, and that's part of the beauty of the system and what I do.
Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds good. In the Netherlands, there's a shortage of teachers at schools. So basically, what's happening is they get students from everywhere and they just put them in front of a class, let alone that they're equipped to handle children with special needs. That's, who are a little bit different. Maybe they are either smarter or they are um, more hyper than other children, or they are more introverted. They're um, lacking self trust. Um, I don't know. How's that in the US, Fonda? What did you? Because you actually went to school. You weren't homeschooled. You actually just. So how's the education system over there? Because
The
Alain's in
educational,
Canada.
yeah, it's no, it's not like Canada. I don't believe so. But speaking of special education, I was a special education student. I have also, what on top of my other stuff, I have dyslexia. So I have a learning disability. So I was always put in. I guess they called it in here in the States CMC, or learning lab classes. Basically, like they're low learning classes, and so we learn things slower than other quote unquote regular students. So like if students were doing already doing algebra, we would be still doing fractions, and this was like in high school. So I was in special ed classes, and it's they do a good job over here, with it and things like that. Of course, I haven't been to high school or college in a while, so I don't know how it is now. But definitely what he was saying about mental health, I would hope and think they would have, mental health, um, like courses, or some guidance counselors or something like that that can enhance the quality of the school systems, especially in special education. Because like you said, I've been in classes with kids that were um, handicap challenged, and I've been in classrooms where people were in wheelchairs and things like that. That was my peer group, and so it is true that students learn differently, slower or faster, or they just like you said, introverted, extroverted, hypersensitive, or not hypersensitive. So I hope that they do have something like that now. I'm not sure how it is now, but they do have like um, special education as well here too.
No,
I would think
that's
so.
good. Yeah, I don't know if it actually how it works, but in my when I look at the kids from my friends and my family, for some reason, there are some who are very smart, and that has a huge downside. Um, some of them are actually dyslexic too, and I believe that has to do with the way the brain works. Um, when you see things in pictures and you
Hmm.
visualize it, it goes a lot quicker. But then when you
Yeah,
have to look at the words, it's like that doesn't make sense.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
give me a book without pictures and which is without those what they call the white areas in between. I have
Hmm.
no clue what it's about. So I'm a listener. I'm really auditive, and if you tell me beforehand what it's about, then I'll go quickly. But if you see me, I'm actually one of those people who go and then I write it down in my notebook. With all these bullets before it, so I actually get an understanding. Oh, that's what it actually says. Whereas give me some algebra and I'll go pop, 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 and yep, there it is because that it makes sense for me. Um, but I've noticed that because people, children don't want to be the odd one out, that when they are capable of getting educational material or being put in a different group which trains them more advanced, that they actually at some point say, I don't want to be the odd one out, so I'm not going to participate in that class. And the thing is that by the time they go to high school and they are among peers who have that same level, they can't deal with it because they never have learned how to study. And that's what I love about your story, because Fonda, you were actually in a special assist class, so they helped you train it. And so I'm going to switch for a sec to Alain. So what if you see students like that? Can you recognize it when you say, "Hey, he's holding back or she's holding back because they are afraid or they don't know how to learn or
But there's always different perspective, and I think communication is the only way you can do that, either with the students or the help of the parents or support staff as well. Because you have to keep in mind that everybody have their own talents. Like I've had it in the same class, brilliant musicians that they can't add two and two together. Or you have mathematicians that are they are amazing, but they cannot recognize a facial expression. So what happened is you've got people that are amazing and at different things, and there's people that are struggling in other parts. And the idea is how you put that together. And that's part of the art of trying to make it work, and that it changes every day. Um, is it easy? No, but it is. But students are pretty smart. If you can find a way to have an environment where you can build a community, and I'm sure that Fonda here in his class, he had a community, the students together. They live day in, day out, and I'm sure the community help each other. Then you can use that to say, okay, we all have different talents, different perspective. Let's see if we can learn from different people's perspective. And I've learned that there's no way we can all be perfect. We do what we can with what we're good at. What we're not good at, then we have to see, okay, can we try to, is it that important? If yes, let's see if we can find tricks. If you prefer images, let's see if we can use pictures and so on. If you prefer algebra and you like the symbols, let's use the symbols. If you prefer to hear, to listen, a video. I remember a science class where I was teaching science in different ways. There's some students, they just wanted the book, read the book, do the activity. They wanted to have nothing to do with anybody else. It's fine. Other people needed to hear the lesson to understand what was going on. And there's some students, they just wanted to do the labs. So in electricity, they don't want to hear about how things are working. Give me the stuff. I'll experiment. I'll see how it works. And so you just need to figure out, okay, they're learning different ways. You need to be aware that as a teacher, your way is not the perfect way. And if you accept that, then each other, they go at their own rhythm. And if you think of an electrician doesn't need to know what algebra is doing. They just need to know how the structure is going for the wiring in a house. That's the main thing. And some of those guys can see in their mind, they can see in 3D what's going on. And whereas people reading in a book that are perfect score in math, they have no idea how to visualize in 3D in their mind. So it's part of how the diversity of students, people, and it's cool in relationships too. There's some people, and you've heard the expression. You need draw me the picture of what you mean. So even if you talk to a partner, they have no clue what you're talking about. At some point, you have to say, okay, how can I share with my partner what I want to say so that they can understand? And it's just opening up to the others. So.
yeah, it would be nice if we were to meet people, and it would be a bit weird maybe, but if we were to say, what makes you tick? What are you passionate about? How do you actually pick up on things? What's your main system? I'm not sure if what how people would react to it, but it would teach us a lot. So, Fonda, what would you do with sensory input? I know when I do meditations, I talk about the touch, the sight, the hearing, the smell. But what would you do? What would you incorporate?
I would incorporate like well, like he was saying, as far as like communication. I love to talk, I guess. So I would incorporate some type of communicating, whether it be written form, audio form, or video form. And going back to what he was saying about how we learn, because for me, I'm a visual learner. I have to
Okay.
see. I have to see videos or see. I have to see. And I think it's important that we learn each other's ways of learning. Like we talked about relationships. Like, how does your partner learn? How does your partner take in information and things of that nature? So I think that's what I would kind of do as far as on that end.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just communicate it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I see
Yeah.
Joe is on there, and Joe
Yeah.
really liked the talk we did the first time around. She said
uh,
so. She said you're really sweet guy. Um,
And Lady
so
Lexi, thank you very much for welcoming me. I have to go and take care of my family to make sure that we can end the day nicely. It's been a pleasure, Lady Lexi. Thank
uh,
you for inviting me. For the
do you
White,
have
thank you
some
very
last
much for the
words?
insight. It's been amazing.
Do you have some
thank you.
last words, Alain?
Hmm?
Some
One
last
last
words?
word.
Something you want to add?
Uh, uh, just believe that people are doing the best they can, and just meet them where they're at. I think that will be my last word for today.
I love that. Thank you. Well, have a
Take
good
care.
time with your family.
Take care, from the White.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting to have it from
Mhm.
a school perspective.
Yeah.
So, so since the last time we talked, uh, you've been a busy guy,
Yeah.
and I love what you just said about um, what you would like to do when it comes to relationships and coming up with a framework of what to tell them at first. So, um, know yourself, and
Hmm.
possibly um, when I talked about observation, would it be something that you would advise them to, like do little assignments of observe the other, what stands out, and see how maybe compare that with how they see themselves?
Hmm.
Just a quick thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, I definitely get that. That makes a lot of sense. So makes a lot of sense. And I don't know. I'm just really thinking about that a lot. Really thinking about it because even when I was talking to uh, I think one time I did a live with Evan Carmichael a while back, and we were talking about your pain comes from your purpose, or your purpose comes from your pain. And my whole thing was I felt worthless in the relationships that I was in. So anybody that feels worthless or not worthy of love or anything like that, I feel you, but it's not true. You're very worthy of love and very worthy of living your life to the fullest and being in a healthy relationship. So
That's so true. So if you would have a bad day, or you know someone who would have a bad day, what would you say to your partner? I mean, maybe something in advance so they know that there's like the safe word or anything, so that it's too much, or maybe I can't express myself right now. I want to, but I don't feel up for it, or maybe you have a bad day and you feel down and you would like to get to the other side, but you just can't. What would be your future? How would you deal with that in the future?
yeah, for one, you have to give your partner space. You definitely have to give your partner space. Don't just be on them all the time about, hey, let me know, let me know. And when they're ready, they're ready. And also I would have to say, if you're not going to communicate it with words, then maybe you can write it out. Maybe you can write it out. And one thing about mental health and relationships is that we can't fix our partner. We're not therapists. We can't fix our partner. But we can definitely understand them better. With things that they want to do or how they don't do or whatnot. We just have to understand one another. So I think that for one, give your partner space. To center themselves and get their thoughts together. And then when they're ready, let's communicate and talk about it.
Yeah,
Whether
I
it be
think
written form or speaking.
so. In order to give their partner space, do you think it would be wise to talk about that before getting into a relationship? Because I don't consider normal behavior that people actually say to one another, okay, now you need to back off. You want to do it, in a different voice and in a different manner, but you should really, um, I don't know, maybe there should be like a strategy or something so that when the other needs space, it's only like little things someone has to say without it being very emotional or that the other one feels hurt because you push the other one away just because you
Yeah,
want to need
well,
space.
right. No, no, definitely the intent has to be right. You can't just say, in the negative or mean way those things. No, what I meant is just far as like if they're not wanting to communicate at that point in time with you, then give them that space. But I think it's important before any relationship starts or begins that you do talk about these things before you actually get into the relationship. Talk about your triggers. Talk about what scares you, what makes you happy, what makes you, all these things. Talk about these things before you actually make that commitment because relationships, it's a commitment, you know? So it's like talk about these things before you actually get into it.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of work, and the falling in love is the easy part, but then actually making it work,
Work. It
that's
definitely is work.
hi Grace. That's a whole different story. Grace from Grace is Enough. I think she's in the Evan Carmichael group as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unless I'm very no, she must be. So um, what's next on your list? So you were talking about a framework. You want to do more with relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. Right now, I'm just gonna stay in my lane as far as speaking about it. I'm not too sure about where I would want to go if it was coaching on it. I would love to one day. That'd be nice. But right now, I'm just gonna, talk about mental health and spread my message on mental health and relationships, and just keep me. Like I said, I might do a little vlogging here and there, but I think 3 videos a week is what I'm gonna try to make possible and make it happen on talking about these issues and things like that. So
and do you want to do 3 videos with other people? And yes, she's a movement maker. So there are 2 groups from IFM. The one
mm,
which is 2 weekly, that's the movement makers, and the one we know one another from,
right.
which is the Insider Readers group, which is every
Mm,
week. I'm in both.
yeah. I need to join them more, but yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, by the time you want to join movement makers, just say hi. I'll make it
Yeah, I
happen.
will. I definitely will. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to do collaborations with people, or do you want to do videos just on the spot? What's your plan?
Both would be my preference. Really, really like a podcast or um, just me speaking on camera, things like that. I'm just gonna, without trying to overwhelm myself, I'm just gonna start off, kind of small and take my steps really small and kind of work my way up from there. But definitely want to get into this topic. I don't think it's talked about enough, in the mental health community. So, excuse me, definitely want to get into this, So everything else that I've was doing or wanting to do, I'm kind of separating the things. I'm kind of prioritizing my mind now, and really understanding my purpose for mental health and being an advocacy for it and spreading my message.
So, what would be say I will meet you, and we would do the elevator pitch. I'm standing there next to you. You have like about 30 seconds. What would you tell me?
If I would tell you about mental health relationships, I'm sorry, it kind of
Yeah,
went out again
about
a
who
little
you
bit.
are and what you do. So I say, hey, hi, I'm the lady next to you, or you? And what are you doing
Oh,
here in this building?
oh, well, I would just say, I would just say my name is Fonda White. I'm a mental health advocate on mental health and relationships, and I just want to bring back hope into the mental health community in the world. That's all I would say right now.
That sounds amazing.
hmm
You
Yeah,
know, you so speak from the heart.
I do. Nothing script. Just that's all I know how to do. That's all I know how to do.
Yeah, you just gave me his elevator pitch. So yeah, I would probably say I give people a voice either by literally being the voice or teaching them how to speak up and speak out and understand other people, why they react the way they do, why they sometimes do understand you or do not understand you, and how to clarify certain things and not be, um, I would say, ashamed. I'm to express yourself, because that's a lot of
Yeah.
time what's happening. People are fearful, or they're hurt in such a way that all they can think, it's no use, it's no use. Just yeah.
Yeah.
I know you just hopped off work, and I was already on the live, and I'm so glad that you joined.
Oh yeah.
I
Thank
really
you.
needed to go do something, It was one of those moments that I'm like, the hyper kicked in, I guess. So are there some things you would like to share? So if people would like to go be on your podcast, would you already accept people? Are there certain specifications they would have to meet? What?
No, right now it's all open. You can go to my YouTube channel, Fonda White Speaks the Voice, and just or my email. Man, I have so many emails, but probably just Fonda White Junior 7 at gmail.com will be the email to go to email me, or on Instagram. At Fonda White Speaks. Just DM me. That's probably the easiest way, just because I'm always on Instagram. So yeah.
Oh, that's a good thing. And can they talk just about anything, or does it has to be mental health related?
Well, my thing is around mental health, but I'm open to talk about anything. But my theme and thing is around mental health, though. I think it's just very important to talk about it.
So say people would want to talk about, I don't know, depression or anything like that. Would you be open to that
Yeah,
too?
yeah. Anything in mental health, I'll be open to talk about it, because my last three episodes we talked about grief and sobriety, so that deals with mental health as well. So anything in that realm where we're talking about it, we're spreading a message and spreading your message. So most definitely.
Yeah, well, I believe that grief is the most underestimated topic,
Yeah.
uh, just like trauma, and a lot of addiction really stems
hmm
from grief and trauma not being processed actually. So yeah, that's it's such an important topic. And just recently I was talking to someone, and I heard about a certain trauma which had taken place, and then my first question was, can I be blunt? Yes, you can. Okay, do you have some form of addiction? I just threw it out there, like, okay, then I know what I'm dealing with,
Yeah. hmm
um, and um, good. A question to you. I started doing a sort of story about people who are alone during the holiday season. So right now until New Year's Eve, or actually January 2nd, 3rd. What do
hmm
you think they would need more? A daily video with some tips and tricks, or just going into that story and going from feeling really miserable and alone to things they can do even when they are on their own. What would your idea be?
I think a daily video would help, because you it can go out quicker, it can get in there quicker, and it can impact, more. So, I think that would be the best way to go by.
What are you going to do? What will your next topic be on video? Because you said you are going to do
Actually,
3 videos a
yeah.
week.
Yeah. My next video, I might make it tonight or tomorrow. I'm not sure, but um, it's actually going to be on mental health and relationships. I already wrote it down and set
Oh,
up my
cool.
thing, so I got to put that video out.
Yeah.
So
Well, let me know when you've done it. I'm curious to watch it. Um, any last words? Things you want to say? Because, like I said, I know you came straight from work, practically on here. So,
yeah, I would have to say self-love is the key to all, and just remember that you're loved and you're cared about, and all your hopes and dreams and wishes will be greater than you can imagine. But self-love, it all starts with self-love first, though.
yeah, yeah. And how difficult though it may be, just say hi to yourself. I loved what I think it was Mel Robbins said: go to the mirror and high five yourself. It's
Right,
one of the
yep.
most difficult things to do, but when
Hmm.
you can actually say hi to yourself, just look yourself in the eyes, not judge yourself, but say, hey, you're my company, you're me. Let's love one
Hmm.
another. Let's embrace one another. You're good enough the way you are.
Hmm.
That
Exactly.
that would be priceless. Well, thank you, Fonda, and
Oh, thank you.
have a wonderful day, evening. What time is it
Oh, it's
out
night.
there?
Nighttime. But it's okay.
Yeah, and we'll see each other again soon.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank
So,
you. See
okay,
you.
bye bye.
Bye.